All right, good afternoon. This is the August 5th meeting of the Research Committee of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. My name is David Armenti. I'm a commissioner and chair of the committee, and I am joined by several colleagues who can introduce themselves. So if you don't mind going around.
Okay, Chris Haley, Director of Research, Education and Outreach and the Legacy of Slavery Program at the Maryland State Archive and Commissioner on the MLTRC.
I'm Hannah Lane. I'm an archivist at the State Archives.
I'm Brett Tyler with Heritage Associates. Also on the call is Donna Holly with Heritage Associates, who is unable to unmute her microphone, but she'll be listening in.
Hi, I'm Emily Olin Squires, Assistant State Archivist, and I'm just here to support the commission.
I guess I'm next. Hi, I'm Dr. Iris Barnes, a commissioner and representing Harford County, Maryland for the hearings. Harford and Cecil.
All right, thank you all, and thank you for being here. So we have an agenda that was posted to the website, which is not overly specific, but what you can see is that we are largely focusing on where we have hearings set for the fall, and we now have multiple public hearings that are set. This is, of course, one of the main outputs of the commission is to hold these public hearings in communities where racial terror lynchings occurred in the state of Maryland. So I think basically our goal for today is to kind of move through those targeted areas and identify where we are in terms of the coordination around the hearings themselves and how the research works into that, and what our kind of gaps and needs are in terms of the research, so we can work that out through this committee. So I guess as opposed to the agenda, maybe we can just move through those chronologically and kind of hit some touch points. And certainly I'll update to the best of my ability what's going on in other conversations, but certainly if Chris, Iris, anybody else Brett has either been in other research related meetings related to hearing coordination, please feel free to hop in, because I by no means have all the information. So with that, and Dr. Barnes, do you are you going to be able to be with us for the hour? Like, would you prefer to prioritize Harford Cecil at any point?
Yes, please. I do have a hard stop at 3.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're okay with it, we could start there. No reason that it has to go strictly chronological.
All right. Well, we've had a couple of meetings with Amy, and we met twice, and then we're going to meet again next Monday. And we've reached out to Cecil County, and we're hoping to get somebody to come besides Mike Dixon. The person that I was able to touch with, but although she didn't respond directly to me, she responded to her friend. She was going out of town for vacation, so I don't know if she'll be back in time for the 12th meeting, but I hope so. But certainly I don't know if Brett has located any descendants. Did he run away as soon as I said Brett? He disappeared.
He's like, uh-oh. I'm on the On the
Well,
docket now.
while he logs back on, can I
Okay.
confirm?
Oh,
Did you
he's back
say
now.
We have not identified any descendants for any of them. We thought he was getting close maybe like a year ago. And I know sometimes he has to switch gears because of the whatever the as the priorities change. But I was wondering if he was successful in identifying and contacting any descendants of Lisa Lewis Harris. Could you hear me, Brett? You're muted.
Yes, we did have some success with Lewis Harris. And I don't have my notes in front of me, but I can certainly send you what we have at the conclusion of this meeting.
Okay. So then
And
okay, go ahead.
are we talking Cecil or Hartford?
Hartford.
Okay.
Did you find anything, Cecil? We're talking about both of them.
Okay,
The
well,
hearing is combined.
sure. The in Hartford County, we have quite a bit of information on Isaac Moore that I can forward to you,
Okay.
and also on Lewis Harris that I can send to you. In Cecil County, John Jones, we had a little bit of success, but it kind of petered out in the early 1900s, I believe it petered out. And Fred Pierce, I don't think we've had any success.
Okay. What about the third person in Hartford County?
Um,
Can-
Jim Quinn, Lewis Harris.
Yeah, Jim Quinn.
With Jim Quinn, nothing. And
Okay.
yeah,
So,
And
David.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at what you had shared, Brett, about Lewis Harris. So there is a genealogical chart that was prepared. It looks like specific to an Overton Harris. So if it's, I mean, certainly we can follow up on that. But I do want to state that for the record as well, that
okay.
some of that legwork was done. But it looks like you said, there was some progress, but maybe it didn't make it to a living relative. But there is an individual listed in this chart as being a third great grandniece of Lewis Harris. So I guess Brett and Donna can confirm whether or not there was any outreach or contact information found. But there are those two genealogical charts that we can certainly circulate to
I have Donna on the
update
other
on that.
line. Let me just ask Donna, did we have any success contacting?
You mentioned Overton. I know Overton in Hartford County. He's probably deceased now.
The Overton is Overton Harris, who I
Right.
believe.
He's the father. I think he's the father of Lewis.
Okay.
And if you'll recall, David, we attempted several times to contact the descendants, and we fecundly did send them a letter, and there was no response.
Okay.
I
And
have
that
a question.
probably.
So,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that probably happened in 2022. I believe that's when you had the soil collection event in Hartford
Yes.
County. Am I remembering that correctly? So I know that was probably when there was some more energy and focus around that time. But I'm just going to note to look back on the attempt to outreach from the chair of the commission as part of the record, but also that needs more attention.
Okay. So there was another Lewis Harris who had fought in the Civil War. And he also fought in the Spanish American War, perhaps. He also had an account with the Freedmen's Savings Bank,
Yeah,
and he is buried at Loudon Park Cemetery. So we were wondering if he was related to this Lewis Harris.
we had the same question, and we have no way yet of being able to verify that.
Did you have all those same documents of his
Yes.
journey? Okay.
Yes, we do.
So this was another Harford County native
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Mhm. What'd you say, Don?
So I thought maybe he might be a ancestor of Lewis. That maybe he was named after this person.
Yeah. And you know about his wife, right?
What was her name again? Martha?
I think it was Mary. She was
Hmm.
arrested for being drunk after he was.
Yes. Yes, we know about that. Turner was her maiden name. So the hearing is going to be held at the church. They were married by a pastor of a church called Ames United Methodist. It's Ames United Methodist today. It was probably Methodist Episcopal back then before they switched their names over. But so we're going to hold the hearing at that particular church in recognition of them being married
Yeah,
there.
good. That's good.
Okay. And Dr. Barnes, I think you said earlier on that there's another planning discussion on the calendar. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, let me make sure. So it's on Monday the 12th at, I believe, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock with Amy.
Okay. And just to reiterate as well, there have not been descendants from any of the Harford or Cecil County cases identified living to participate or contacted, but we do have evidence of likely collateral descendants who there was some attempt to reach them from the commission, likely about 2 years ago. So between the committee members here and Heritage Associates, we'll make sure that's all documented and organized, but also I think work with the executive leadership and talk about making another attempt to reach out to any individuals that have been identified.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. We do have a descendant of one of the, I can't think of the name right now. He was not a perpetrator. He helped Lewis Harris's wife. Getz is the name, and I think he's willing to testify. I believe Getz was a immigrant who had escaped. I'm going to say Russia. They had the pogroms, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so he helped her.
She was a servant, wasn't she, Donna? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was thinking that she was a servant.
Okay. Yep. That's what it sounds like. Yep. That's what I think. So
She worked for the family.
I think so. I think he helped her out. Maybe he helped her out after this incident where she was arrested and charged this money that they knew she didn't have. Hello, Miss Hughes.
And so you're saying, Dr. Barnes, that there are descendants of the Getz family in the community who may be willing to participate in some way?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we can verify that. We can ask Lisa Tuzo, who's on our committee, who can, who's mostly been in contact with the Getz family.
Great, thank you.
I wondered about the sheriff's family, who put out the statement in the newspaper, how this is not how we do business, something or other. He wanted to locate the perpetrators, at least in this newspaper article. Is that something we should try to trace?
I would think so. I mean, we at least want to make sure we have that newspaper article and that, you know, as a component of the research report. But do you mean would we want to pursue it as far as a descendant?
Mm-hmm.
David, we can take a look at that again if you like.
Have you seen that newspaper?
I don't think we've seen that newspaper. If I could get that, it'd be helpful.
Okay.
So I'll send you my email and you can reply to it. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
And Iris, would you, as far as research coordination with Hartford and or Cecil, I know that there was an email thread that included Mike Dixon, but he's more Cecil County specific. Should kind of this thread of the conversation be you, anybody else on your end that should be a part of that conversation, so we're not kind of
Definitely, yeah, definitely for Cecil County, Hartford County, it should be Lisa Tuzo. She's done the majority of the research and has it all in her head as well as written. And definitely Mike Dixon for Cecil County, who did a pretty
Okay.
comprehensive report.
Right. And I think that was the main email communication that was started after one of the planning meetings, was to loop Mike Dixon back in. So for sure, the other name I don't have off the top of my head. So maybe if you could kind of restart that email thread and make sure that we have the right people looped in there. That
Okay.
can include Brett, Donna, myself, whoever else from the research committee side, and we'll make sure we're kind of on the same page with what is known and not known.
Okay. Who else would like to be on that thread? Okay.
I mean, I'm always happy to nominate Chris to be also in communications, but
I was gonna do the same. What instincts we have?
You could certainly do that, because I know somewhere there's going to be a pineapple upside down cake for me. So there you go, Iris. There you go. That's
I didn't know about pineapple upside down cakes.
oh, you know, it's for me to know and for you to find that recipe. Are we now having standing meetings though with Hartford County now? I know we've had one that was outside of our regular meeting. Are we specifically doing that now?
Yes, so that was,
Okay.
we had one last week, and the next one is next week at 5:00. I can send you the link. I can send
Sure.
you both the link along with the information. And
Right,
then,
that'd be great.
yeah.
So we're
yeah,
talking.
and I would just say
Yeah.
in general, myself, Chris, Brett, Donna, will kind of be the core research committee to be updated on coordination meetings. And you know, obviously everybody's not going to be able to be at everything, so that can, if everybody's informed, then that can help divide and conquer to the best of our ability.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
And again, we're looking at October 26th
That's
Am
correct.
that's saying that correct? Okay, so Saturday, October 26th for a joint Harford and Cecil County public hearing that will take place at, did I hear Ames United Methodist Church?
Yes, in Bel Air.
Okay. And I'm sure we'll have that information laid out and can be circulated more widely once everything is fully set. So appreciate that update,
You're
and we
welcome.
will continue that email thread.
Okay.
Anything else on Harford Cecil?
I have nothing else. I just wanted to be certain that Brett and Donna had looked into the other Lewis Harris, because we just instinctively think there's a connection, but we don't have anything to. Did you maybe trace his descendants to see if any of them align? Oh, Brett, muted.
I'm sorry, we did not find any descendants that are living.
Of the new Lewis Harris, the older.
The older, yeah.
None. Okay.
But we'll review all our notes and include the information we have when I email you.
Okay. So maybe if not any living, but any of the deceased individuals may overlap, perhaps somewhere
Perhaps.
along the line. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we'll stay in October, and we are literally looking exactly 2 months out. Oh gosh, at Saturday, October 5th for Montgomery County. I have not been involved directly in coordination conversations, but as I understand, that is a fairly firm October 5th date right now. So stating that again for the record, I don't have a location. I don't know if anybody else does have any more specifics on that at the moment. But my understanding with Montgomery County, and this is trying to reach back in the memory bank again for conversations from probably a couple years ago, but I am at least aware that the organization Montgomery History, which is formerly Montgomery Historical Society, did a really substantial and great job as far as documenting the cases within that county, and I can certainly share that link to this meeting once I take a pause. But for Montgomery County, we are looking at Sidney Randolph and George W. Peck and John Diggs. So those three individuals. And again, you know, the credit due to, I believe it's the archivist of Montgomery history, Sarah Headland. So this is one of those situations where I want to say it was Chris and I met with her virtually sometime maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and you know, again, a lot of the work was done, so to speak, as far as setting the stage for the facts of the cases. Now, descendant identification, that's something I think we're going to have to look back on and touch base with our colleagues who have been in conversation, because I don't have that confirmed in front of me, but I'll certainly circulate the research reports so we can all kind of catch ourselves up on that information.
Okay.
Anything that anybody else is aware of, or corrections to or addendums to what I've stated. I'm going to pull up the research report from their website and just circulate the link here. So again, I think at minimum, to continue to familiarize ourselves with the cases in the lead up to what is our most soon upcoming hearing. I don't have an exact location, but that's something that'll certainly be circulated among the commissioners and on the commission website. But starting with the research information, and I imagine in the planning conversations, we will learn whether or not local groups have already identified any descendants. Montgomery has had a number of public events already in commemoration, and it's a very active local community in this regard. So I think it's mostly a matter of making sure we know what they already know, not redoubling efforts, but maybe focusing on the things that have not been uncovered yet, including potentially looking at descendants. So, Brett, do you recall with your work, what was there anything uncovered with any focus on Montgomery County that's worth sharing for this group?
Not at this time, David. I recall some time ago going to one of those Montgomery County events and doing some research afterwards with no success in terms of finding descendants.
Okay. So if nobody else on the call has any more information than that, I think maybe we can put a pin in Montgomery County for the moment. And like I said, between commissioners, we'll make sure that we are aware of whatever updates there may have been around the public hearing coordination, at least right now, focused on October 5th, and whatever else comes out of those conversations in terms of research goals.
October 5th, firm date for Montgomery County. Is that correct, David?
I'm saying it's firm because that's the latest that I've heard. I also recognize that that's 2 months out. So if I would hope and expect that if it is firm, that we'll have a location and some more specific information coming very soon. So we'll certainly let folks know. All right, I think we can move into a region that has also had some good sustained conversation and planning going on, some of which I've been able to join, and I'm certainly getting updates. And that would be the Southern Maryland Tri-County area. And again, this is St. Mary's County and Calvert County, both of which have one known identified racial terror lynching victim. But as I understand, the hearing itself is also still including Charles County. So it's while there is not a known racial terror lynching victim in Charles County at this time, they've been welcomed into the planning conversation. So there may be some amount of kind of historical context that's more broadly about the region, and kind of those racial and social dynamics. So just for the record, we know that there is not a case that's under the purview of the commission in Charles County, but the Charles County community is still being welcomed into the actual hearing coordination. I was a part of a planning meeting that included individuals from both Calvert County and St. Mary's County that was led by Commissioner Michelle Coles. So many thanks to her for continuing that conversation and making sure that folks are updated about it. So there are a few folks on the ground that are really providing a lot of support from both of those counties, including an individual named Michael Kent, who's a local researcher and representative for Calvert County's African American community, who, as well as Karen Stone for the St. Mary's community. So at this time, those are two kind of the two public representatives, as we understand it, who will probably have a pretty significant role in the public hearing as well. So that is scheduled for, let's see if I have that date, November 16th. I also do not have that location right in front of me, but that'll certainly be circulated. So the two victims that we are focused on are Benjamin Hance and Charles Whitley. From that conversation, that recent planning conversation, it was also confirmed that the local representatives had not identified any descendants of the victims, nor community members who were also kind of community members whose families had been in the community for generations, had also not been identified. So that's part of our ongoing conversation with these local coalitions, so to speak, is, working through those known connections that they may already have, and obviously privileging the victims or descendants of the victims, but also if there are not known victim descendants, thinking about other community members who, like I said, perhaps their families have been in the community for generations, particularly from the African American community, who might be willing to kind of speak on behalf of the community, if not the family directly. So it was as far as we know on their end, none had been identified. And I believe, Brett, you may, if I'm remembering, Brett, you may have been in that conversation as well. They did bring up that there was an African American who served on the jury for the lynch mob, as related to Benjamin Hance, who there may be descendants of that individual in the community,
Right.
Which could also be of interest. But go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, David, we haven't researched that jury member, but we did find two probable likely living descendants, or I should say relatives. I'll send you their names, but their birth dates, one in 1960 and one in 1986, makes it likely that they may be around. We have not been in contact. Oh, I'm sorry. My sister just yelled at me that they've agreed to participate.
And forgive me if is that something that you had already shared by email?
Yes, we have.
Okay. All right. I apologize for that oversight. So this is a single or two descendants, two potential descendants, you said?
Yes. One for Hanson, one for Whitley.
Okay.
And if you give me a second, it's Shatia Preston Berryman. You might remember that name for Charles Whitley. And Crystal Herbert for Benjamin Hance.
Yes, I'm remembering now. And you said that contact had been made with both of them, and at least one agreed to some level of participation.
Both have agreed to participate.
Okay. So, given that, and I know we want to be deliberate about process here, especially learning from some of our past hearings. So that communication has been solely with the two of you up to this point?
That's correct.
Okay. If I think, and please, anybody, any other commissioner, please feel free to jump in or add to this. But I think what we would want to happen is to then introduce those individuals by email to some amount of the commission leadership and or the logistics committee in order to start folding into hearing planning, or at least start that part of the conversation.
I'll see that you get their contact information.
Okay, and I'll confirm with the logistics committee and the leadership committee that this conversation is underway, as well as with the liaison commissioners. And again, you may have already included them on the update, or perhaps I forwarded it, so I'll just revisit that communication.
Okay. And the people that I refer to as having birth dates that would make it likely they're alive are actually descendants of Sheriff Anderson. I made a mistake originally. They're actually descendants of the sheriff who would not contact it, but it's likely that they may be alive. We don't know if they're in the area.
Okay. So to confirm, if you could summarize the status of those communications, include the contact information, and I will forward that along to the right folks within the commission, and we'll devise what the best strategy for further invitation or conversation.
Will do. You'll have that by tomorrow.
And if you could also, I think if you could also include what the level of documentation that you may have, and that kind of supported the decision to reach out to those individuals, that would be helpful too.
Yeah, we'll take care of that tomorrow.
So those are the primary updates that I have, again, focusing on the public hearings that have been scheduled for calendar year 2024. I know that we also have Prince George's County is currently scheduled for January 25th, 2025. We also invited them to last month's meeting, which was actually only 2 weeks ago. And so I know there's certain ongoing conversations already via email. So I didn't know if anybody had any additional follow-up or steps that we need to focus on for Prince George's County. I'll open the floor for that.
Yeah. We do have a descendant for Stephen Williams. Her name is Crystal Queen. And we've been in touch. She's his, God, there's so many generations.
I think she's his fourth great niece.
Yeah, I think it's his fourth great niece.
That she would participate.
We've been in touch with her as well, and she's willing to participate.
Great. Well, I would say, I guess I would just say the same thing as for Calvert and St. Mary's, where if you could, and again, maybe this already happened, so I apologize. Still Monday catching up on emails, but to package that update for commission specific communication to myself and Chris, and we'll make sure that further contact happens the way is intended. And I did see your note, Elizabeth. Apologies. We will definitely acknowledge that before the hour. That's an oversight on my part. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, but how much, and I certainly we should know this, but as far as our updated research, because I know we're having ongoing meetings with Prince George's County too, from a research end, about how many do we have as far as for like any updates on, I guess, descendant or the lack thereof for the 4 persons? Because since we're having such a discussion or consideration with PG County about how their hearing will look, so to speak, like what the run of show and how they want to make it and how we feel would probably be more logistically doable on one day. I'm trying to think, do we have an equal amount of elements for each of these 4 that we could go back and try again to figure out how do we logistically create a hearing that's going to take 3 hours, a difference to one that's going to take a whole day, which could be where it seems that their group is leaning right now, which isn't exactly what we want to do, but that's what they're thinking of right now. So I just want to get a sense of, do we feel we have descendants for each of these 4 individuals, or do we not, or something that we could finally come to terms with? For each person, we will try to get 2, or we have 2, or we have 1, or we have this, so that we can really try to get a tighter sense of, if we are going to try to do each victim presented as if they're their own presentation and then start over again, how can we catch that so it's still logistically within a time frame that people aren't going to be worn out, quite frankly?
Chris, my input is, as I just said, we do have descendants for Stephen Williams, and I believe the local people, I'm not sure where they stand, but I believe the local people have located a relative of Thomas Jurick's.
Okay.
Whether or not he is still participating, I don't know. But as far as Scott and Green, we've not located anyone as of yet.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
David, I'm going to have to drop off. Good. So long, everyone. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Brett.
Bye-bye.
Well, that means we've lost Donna too, because she was only available through through Brett's phone, really.
And I believe they were headed to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know we're at 2:50, but Chris, just from my understanding, and I know I was a part of a meeting last week where this was discussed to some extent. There's, ideally, we would like to know that there are descendants of all 4 victims, right? I think that's, I mean, I think that's an understood general concept, but as far as that impacts the logistics of the hearing itself, is that the concern? Is that, there's there's a template, and if certain elements aren't filled, that it would go in another direction? I'm just trying to understand how we should be trying to look at this.
Well, I know this is more of a logistic situation more than a research. So I'm just trying to think that, since this being the research committee portion, that I'm trying to think in terms of what do we have in place here as far as research findings or research information via newspapers, via reports, or what have you, that could equally populate each of these presentations. Because now, from what I understand from the email, we did not come, or we have not yet confirmed what January 25th is going to look like as far as that Prince George's County hearing. I don't think we've confirmed it's going to be this way or it's going to be that way. And so what I was trying to figure out, or see if we knew that, at least from facts about, or people to represent about each of these 4 victims, do we have an equal amount, or could we dictate what that equal amount is? Say if we have 3 for one, 4 for one, and only 2 for another, or only 1 for another, then in difference to having it in and of itself seem disproportionate or weighted toward one presentation, we could say, well, we only have 2 for this, so let's have 2 for each of them. Or in difference to, this one has 4. Just something to try to corral the time frame of what this could be. I just having been involved at the Prince George's County presentation or event for Thomas Stewart, that took a good 3 hours. And there were, I don't even know if we had a descendant for that, but we had so many different elements. We had people from the community, we had poetry, we had music, we had so many different elements, which are very effective. However, to do it individually for all 4, I think could potentially take a very, very, very long time. So I'm trying to think of, well, what from a research point of view do we have that we could really capsulize, if that's the right word, to make something approaching, okay, this will be a 15-minute presentation, this will be a half-hour presentation, whatever, for these 2 people. So at least we can start winnowing down the time frame of what it is, of what it can be. Because the other things, I feel like that might be the core element, that if we can confirm that, then we can go from that to say there was only 2 individuals who are going to speak on Thomas Stewart, and we're going to give them 15 minutes total. So for each of these other ones, it's 15 minutes total, and then we just start building on that, right? And so I'm just trying to find something that we can grab onto and begin to come up with a similar element of what that is, and then build from there. Because right now it still seems kind of open-ended of what ours have been so far, and what PG County would like it to be based on what they've already produced. I hope that makes sense. I felt like I was kind of rambling on that one, but but that's what I'm trying to find, something that we can grab onto and say, well, this is what we're going to have for all of them, and this is going to take this much time. Now, if you want someone to do poetry, we give them 5 minutes. If you want somebody to do a dance presentation, it takes, again, 5 minutes. And then if we have a if we have a speaker from the community, then they get, again, 5 minutes or something like that. And then if we're going to do it 4 times, then again, that's how long it's going to take. And then we can look at what will, if those are our elements, then that could take this long, which could be done within 3 hours, or it would take a whole day, which it seems potentially is where Prince George's County Memorial Project might want it to go at this point.
Yeah, I think I understand. And, you know, it does feel like kind of a logistics thing to define. And yeah, so I don't know that we have the solutions here. But at least being able to point to the template of what we've done, especially for ones that have had multiple victims. And I think the idea is, you know, obviously you would want to privilege descendants when you have them, but you can't create them out of nothing if the research or the collaboration hasn't been there. So yeah, I feel the concern on that, and being able to articulate it in a way that's understandable and sensitive to the concerns that they have.
Elizabeth, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just putting something in the chat because I know we're
Oh.
getting down to the end, and the midshore hearing is later, you know, but I'm getting a little concerned. I don't feel like we have any descendants identified thus far for the midshore that have been like vetted and confirmed. And I just wonder, I mean, there are a lot, you know, combining those 3 counties, it's 5 people that we'll be talking about, 5 victims. So maybe I would have greater concerns if we had many descendants. How would we, you know, incorporate it all? But I guess if we don't have any identified, then I'm wondering how that will, if that's a concern or not. Or I guess thinking back to some of the other hearings maybe that I've been to, there haven't always been descendants, although you certainly will have speakers. But just didn't know if that's something I should be concerned about or doing something about as I'm helping to coordinate all this.
I think what we've gone with so far is, I think what would be ultimately bad would be if there's descendants out there who we have not contacted and we can't get them. However, if there are descendants out there that, quite frankly, within Heritage Associates, within ourselves, within the communities, have not been able to locate up to the point that we advertise, we promote that we're going to have a hearing at this date. And up to that date, we still have not been able to identify and or confirm that we have descendants, then I think we have to be fine with moving forward with that. We will have, I think this is right. Are we saying that we will have a public testimony period still? Because if we are still saying that, or if we are still saying that at the hearings, we will have an opportunity for, I don't know if we're talking about perhaps doing 3x5 cards, or I'm getting confused with another meeting, that people could talk at the moment, like then that allows for that possibility. Now again, that would eliminate the possibility that we have vetted that this person or persons are actual descendants, but we wouldn't have the opportunity to do that anyway. So that's what I think. If we have that open period of time where people could still speak that day if they feel the need, if the movement moves them, then I think we're okay, as long as we've promoted in whichever way we can through the Hatcher group or what have you, that we're having this hearing, we're having it at this site, at this location, then I think we have to feel okay about ourselves that we've made the effort to get it out there. And again, we reinforce the thing, as we've said at Prince George's County, whatever we do for the hearing does not mean you, individual county coalition, cannot subsequently do whatever you want to do, whatever you choose to do. If somebody comes up after the fact, then in no way does that mean you cannot create some presentation or some program yourself. This is something that we have to do with the elements that we have and with the time frame that we've been given. I hope that feels a little bit better about it, but
Yeah, I agree. That's certainly the goal, is to have those community members and family members represented. But again, as long as the due diligence has been done to the ability we have, that's what our goal is. I will say that we were contacted by an individual who said, I believe she was a descendant of Asbury Green. So there was communication sent in response to that that I haven't gotten a follow-up on. So this is a good reminder for me to nudge that individual again. And I'll just say, frankly, I think, some people are not as regular email users as somebody like me who's kind of sitting in my office as throughout the day. So I understand where, somebody might reach out, but not follow up. So that's our responsibility to push and hopefully get in contact with that individual who took that step. So I'll have that note for myself, and we'll also make sure that we follow up with Heritage Associates to see if there were any other loose ends on the communication around that, or the research around that, because I want to say that there was a little more conversation around those counties a year or two ago as well. And so just to reiterate, there is, at this time, there is a Saturday, December 7th, what we would call mid-shore public hearing that would encompass Caroline, Queen Anne's, and Kent County. Is that correct? And I
Right, and we don't have a
within that,
location yet. The next meeting of the planning group is August 28th, and hopefully we will nail
Okay.
down a location at that time. Yeah.
And I think that would also be a good time to, confirm what we know, and make sure that. So is it you? Is there another liaison commissioner, or you the
So-
primary at this point?
Chair Fukunle is attending those meetings, and Carl Snowden is attending those meetings, or he's invited. And those are the three commission members, along with, staff, and then there are a number of local folks from the individual counties. So the James Taylor Coalition in Kent County, but then just other interested individuals from Caroline, Lakia Price, and then from Queen Anne's is Hess Stinson. So
Okay, great. So we will, we'll update that group of individuals on what is and is not known, and the research committee also needs to follow up with the potential descendant who had contacted us. I believe at the recommendation of a commissioner, but I'm not sure if there was some sort of personal connection. But I'll figure out that person's name so that can at least be circulated. And maybe if we have not been successful by August 28th, that could be another thing to share with that group as well, is to say, look, these individuals have contacted us. but we haven't confirmed any sort of participation or gotten a lot in terms of the genealogical documentation. So that should be our committee goal. All right, it is 3:03. Appreciate folks' time. Anything urgent before we send off?
Just a reminder, we have all the dates for the upcoming hearings on the MLTRC website.
Good point. So as we're communicating with anybody, let's continue to reference what is publicly available there. Not just the dates and times, but also, process for what we want to include. So appreciate that. And I imagine we will have another research committee meeting in about a month. Unless for some reason that cannot happen. Is it Labor Day? Let me see. September 2nd, is that Labor Day? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll probably have to find an alternative date. So stay tuned on that, as well as some of these other updates.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, bye.